It's Tuesday, June 2nd. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. New Brunswick's Auditor General slams NB Power for putting taxpayers at risk. Toxic drugs on the streets of one maritime city are fueling overdoses.
Sunnier weather with temperatures continue to warm up over the next few days.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. He didn't hold back. New Brunswick's Auditor General has heaped criticism on a utility already mired in problems. In a report released today, the AG slammed NB Power for putting taxpayers at risk and making rash decisions on its plans for a natural gas power plant. Nick Moore has our top story.
I don't believe the process was well structured and could use some more scrutiny.
That is the main theme from Auditor General Paul Martin's report today, looking at NB Power's plans for a natural gas power plant, which received regulatory approval from the Energy and Utilities Board last week. Martin says his job wasn't to declare if the plant was needed for electricity demand, but rather if NB Power followed due process of making sound decisions along the way. Martin says on that question,
there's just gaping holes in this whole assessment and decision model taken. It may be the right decision. How would you know?
Martin says a key decision from NB Power about whether or not it would own the facility or strike up a partnership leaves a lot of questions unanswered.
NB Power has decided to go with a partnering agreement rather than ownership. It's hundreds of millions of dollars more.
Up to $700 million more, according to the AG report.
Is there a good reason, a good solid business case? Why? I don't see the documentation for that.
Martin says had the EUB denied approval for the plant, NB Power would have been obligated to pay Pro Energy for early construction costs of up to $55 million US.
Why are we putting ourselves at risk like that? Why was the contract structured like that?
The AG report says NB Power does not have a contingency plan if the project ultimately does not go ahead, adding that there's still plenty of risk to come. The committee of MLAs asking Martin questions today say they have plenty more for NB Power.
I honestly think we need to ask NB Power to come to the Public Accounts Committee and ask those serious questions.
I don't think it should stand. There are so many questions and so many problems with this.
At the same time, Martin says he's working on other reports for the near future involving NB Power.
There's another chapter coming for this fall on NB Power, so there will be more.
You want to share what it might be about?
Not at this time.
In a statement today, NB Power says it was making decisions about the gas plant project at a time when there was heightened system risk and that the utility made decisions based on long-term planning that also took into account the market environment and available equipment. Martin says that NB Power treated this as a supply arrangement and not a capital project, and he says that is significant because this is a 25-year-long agreement that could cost more than $2.8 billion. Todd.
All right, thank you, Nick Moore, in our Fredericton studio this evening. Now, the Auditor General also had some tough words for New Brunswick's literacy programs. The report he released found students are failing to hit provincial targets for reading and writing. In fact, the AG found no standards were met during a 3-year audit. Few schools passed, and the province did little with the poor scores. We'll examine what is a nationwide problem in our interview segment just after 6:30. Now, reading is taking a hit in one part of Nova Scotia. This summer, funding cuts are shutting down several public libraries in the Annapolis Valley. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness was in one town where voices were raised against the move.
They're used to being quiet, but these library users in Kentville were making a lot of noise today. They've gathered outside PCMLA John Laura's office to protest the potential closing of 5 libraries across the Annapolis Valley.
We're very disappointed. I mean, libraries mean a lot to the area, and currently we don't understand the logic for why these ones are closing.
There are 11 locations under the umbrella of the Annapolis Valley Regional Library. 5 are scheduled to close: Hansport, Kentville, Port Williams, Middleton, and Lawrencetown. Village officials, however, in that community pledged to keep the location open The closures of the others are a big blow to those communities.
Libraries just aren't a place for seniors to get books, but they're a meeting place, they're a learning place, they're an educational place, they're an information place.
It's not just seniors who use libraries as a meeting place.
So I go there every week to get books out. It's a way to get out of the house and meet other parents and give my kids a space to engage with books.
Author Brenda Wallace-Allen attended the Kentville rally to lend her voice to those opposing the closures.
When libraries lend their books, get money, a small commission from the Canada Council for the Arts. Those of us who are struggling to make ends meet as authors actually benefit from the library loans.
Provincial funding for libraries comes from the Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism and Heritage. CTV News contacted them for a comment but didn't receive a response by deadline. On its website, the AVRL board says their funding hasn't increased since 2020. All Annapolis Valley Regional Library locations are closed until June 15th to help with the restructuring process. At that point, they will all reopen until the chosen locations close for good. Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News, Kentville, Nova Scotia.
There's a disturbing trend underway in Moncton. The number of overdoses on the streets is hitting an unmanageable level. As CTV's Derek Haggett reports, toxic drugs are circulating in the city.
It was a horrible weekend for Ryan Clements, one that could have cost him his life. Clements was one of many who overdosed in the greater Moncton area this past weekend.
There's been a lot. There's been way too many. There's a bad batch of fentanyl in town. Me being a user myself, I overdosed 3 times this weekend.
Between Friday and Monday morning, Ambulance MB says 911 received 65 calls in relation to suspected overdoses in the greater Moncton area. A member of the YMCA's Community Development Program says they responded to over 30 overdose calls this weekend, much more than they usually do, and they have heard of at least one fatality. Some are saying fentanyl laced with tranquilizers has made its way to the city.
It's been a rough couple of days.
The victims? People of all ages.
From early 20s to 60s. It doesn't really, substance use disorder is not something that discriminates, unfortunately.
The Moncton Fire Department received 52 overdose calls this weekend. The previous weekend, just 5. That's putting a strain on resources and firefighters.
What we're concerned about is mental fatigue or mental compassion fatigue. So that's when a firefighter it's just another overdose. We're not there yet, but we're monitoring that.
Landry says he's also heard of one overdose fatality. The province says they're looking into it.
I've seen the same reports that we've seen about tranquilizer-laced fentanyl, and so it's a serious concern that we have these potent drugs on our streets.
By noon today, firefighters had already responded to 6 calls, one more than the daily average. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Online, a woman has been charged with manslaughter in connection with a man's death in Petit Rocher. You can read more about that at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. It's more than a year away, but already debate has begun over what to do when Nova Scotia's rent cap expires at the end of 2027. CTV's Jesse Thomas has the competing arguments.
Nova Scotia's 5% rent cap has always been billed as a temporary measure. While government extended it until the end of 2027, the debate over its effectiveness and future continued at this legislative committee. The Investment Property Owners Association argues the rent cap is a flawed policy and is stifling construction of new rental units.
A rent cap is a red flag to investors. It means risk. And as long as that risk is there, there'll be less investment in the area. And we need investment. We need supply.
Landlords say the rent cap doesn't account for drastic increases to costs like insurance, taxes, heating fuel, rising faster than a 5% rent increase. Housing advocates argue the rent cap remains one of the few tools that keep rents in check. And if property owners are going broke, the province should consider a policy that allows landlords who are losing money to apply for a rent increase beyond the 5%.
there's big questions to be raised about why Nova Scotia doesn't have a system for above guideline increases. This is a system that's adopted in many other provinces.
Government remains adamant that the solution is building more housing.
So the strategy for the province is really focused on housing and housing supply. And so all of the activities of government are moving in that direction. And certainly we're seeing success with respect to the vacancy rate.
While the overall vacancy rate sits at 2.6%, advocates say affordable housing still remains much too hard to find. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
In New Brunswick, a former motor inn is becoming a transitional housing project. The former Go Motel in Moncton, with its 14 units, will be managed by the United Way. The province bought and renovated the two-story building for just under $800,000. The housing minister acknowledged Moncton needs this kind of facility more than any other community, given the severity of the housing crisis in that city.
This is people coming directly out of a tent, directly out of a shelter, into permanent in-community housing. Moncton is the community that most acutely affected by homelessness and all the challenges that come along with that, and we're making sure that we make priority of building new in-community supported housing units here.
Oh, numbers show 519 people were homeless in Moncton last month. There is a live look at the Armdale Rotary in Moncton now, or in Halifax rather. That is rush hour traffic moving fairly well and fairly clear skies as we bring in CTV meteorologist Kayla Mitchell. I guess there were some clouds there, but blue sky anyway.
Yeah, a few thunderstorms actually, though, on the doorstep and around the Halifax area, which is why I wanted to take a look at that view, because there are going to be some of these storms passing through the area shortly here, very, very shortly. Just taking a look at things on radar and satellite. Actually, pretty dangerous thunderstorm. We're in the vicinity of Upper Tantallon right now. This one looks like it could pack not only some downpours, but potentially some small hail with it. There's also lightning with these thunderstorms. That, of course, dangerous at any time. And certainly should be inside waiting that one out. And same thing goes for the area, basically from Halifax and extending up towards Clam Harbour. The risk of a couple thunderstorms here over the next hour, maybe hour and a bit. So if you do hear a rumble of thunder, head inside, wait this line out. It is fast moving, so they're not going to be around for very long. They're heading in the direction of the Atlantic coastline, and they're going to be passing east of the coastline as we make our way through this evening. In fact, as I put this into motion for you, you can see the direction of those showers and those few thunderstorms. Those thunderstorms just following up and behind the main band of showers, which is in the process of clearing Cape Breton and the eastern shore of Nova Scotia. So again, that active weather will be around for the next hour and a bit, but then should be coming to an end. And largely, any remaining showers and the risk of thunderstorms will be coming to an end as we make our way through this evening and tonight. And as that happens, the cloud cover is going to be clearing up as well. There will be some patchy fog that develops during the overnight hours. So if you're going to be out a little bit later, you know, after those showers and those few thunderstorms finish up, here's a couple things you can see in the night sky. It's a good night to see the moon, but it won't be rising above the southeastern horizon until after midnight. So waning gibbous moon, and it'll be 95% illuminated. A little bit earlier, though, in the evening after sunset, if you got a decent clear view of the western horizon, you could spot Venus and Jupiter close together, viewable as a pair right now. The aurora is unlikely to be observed, and no passes for the International Space Station through June 16th. So, Todd, those thunderstorms, keep track of them. I'll have an update for you on that a little bit later on, and then we'll take a look at some warmer temperatures and then heat building into the Maritime region over the next couple of days.
Okay, we'll talk about that in about 14 minutes. Thank you, Kellen. We've done a lot of reporting about potholes in the state of streets and roads in the Maritimes, mostly in cities. But we were told the situation is particularly bad in a rural stretch, so our Emma Convey went for a ride.
This is Highway 101. It runs the length of the Annapolis Valley. Motorists often drive below the speed limit, not out of fear for fines, but for potholes.
I have to dodge, like the police probably think I'm drunk going down the road. It's terrible.
If you're driving along and if you're not paying attention, you could leave half of your vehicle in one pothole and then finish off your other part of your vehicle in another pothole.
Potholes are a known problem in the bigger cities, but along with Highway 101, towns just off it are every bit as bad.
My truck's a 2021 and drove it across Canada, no problems. Been here for 2 years and now it's just falling apart.
This is Main Street in Middleton, Nova Scotia, covered in potholes. One comment a lot of people in this area mentioned to me is that their side streets are actually better to drive than their main streets and highways. That's not saying much given how many potholes are actually here.
In the last 20 years, they've been deteriorating more and more with the heaving and frosting and the cost of keeping the roads up.
Look out, there's a piece of road in the pothole. And it may not be that bad, but it's getting pretty close.
Bad enough to inspire the owner of this diner to create a pothole burger.
Made with a hole in the top bun, and then it is poorly patched with pulled pork.
It became their most popular burger, a bright spot in a dark subject.
I don't know why the roads are so bad here or why we can't seem to fix them in a more permanent manner when other places can.
The worry in these rural communities where everyone drives isn't just the damage to the vehicles, but the risk to lives. Emma Convey, CTV News, Middleton, Nova Scotia.
When 36,000 liters of fuel spills, no one expects it to be gone the next day. But nearly 2 months after a tanker rolled over on a New Brunswick highway, crews continue to clean up. CTV's Avery McRae has an update.
It's a calm day along New Brunswick's Hammond River, but there was a time the worst was feared for the popular watershed.
We're very hopeful right now.
In early April, a double fuel tanker rolled over on Highway 1 in Nowidjawak, about 20 minutes outside of St. John, resulting in around 36,000 liters of spilled fuel. Nearly 2 months later, one eastbound lane remains closed as crews continue to remove contaminated soil from the area.
Perio Engineering has so far removed 2,000 metric tons of soil, and they've established clean walls, which means areas around their excavation where they haven't detected certain levels of these volatiles.
Monitoring wells have been installed on site, while booms and other mitigation efforts have been put in place in the short term to keep the spill from spreading. Sam Bowen is the Angling Association's ecological technician. He's been testing the water for fuel, and the first 2 rounds came back clean.
Now, that doesn't mean that there's zero in the water. It just means that with our laboratory methods, it's below where we're able to detect, which is reassuring.
CTV reached out to the province for an update on the remediation work, with the spokesperson from the Environment Department saying regular sampling is happening on site. No timeline was given for when the remediation will wrap up.
The HRAA will continue doing water sampling over the 2026 field season, and we have a 3rd round of sampling at the lab right now.
There is still no word on what caused the crash, which remains under investigation. Avery McRae, CTV News, Nowidjawak, New Brunswick.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Transit riders in Cape Breton will soon be able to pay their bus fare in a new way. It was announced on June 15th, that's 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks from now, new tap and pay will be operating on CBRM Transit. The city says it will be a simple flat rate fare of $2.50 one way to ride anywhere in the municipality. It's being done to modernize service and make it more convenient. The municipality says riders can tap debit, credit, a transit card, or pay from a cell phone app. It was a class exam like no other. A high school class marched to save the historic Florenceville covered bridge today.
Don't let our bridge wash away. We want our history to stay.
Carleton North High School students organized this rally as part of their final grade 10 civics exam. They carried signs, made speeches, and crossed the historic bridge, demanding the wooden span be restored, not removed. Built in 1886, it's been closed to vehicle traffic the past 6 years.
And I have a grade 10 civics class down here today protesting, hopefully
hopefully someday the reopening of the Florenceville Bridge, and just to make sure that there is funding set aside to, at the very least, make sure that it stays safe and open to, at the very minimum, pedestrians and bikes, even if they can't get it reopened to traffic, but that would of course be the ultimate goal.
The students hope their action will raise awareness. 140 years old, it's the oldest bridge over the St. John River. A piece of local history they argue is worth saving. There's no word on what grade they got. We'll take our first break of the evening now. Showers end and the sky clears tonight. Kalen has a look at the rest of the week in the weather. He also mentioned those thunderstorms that are passing by. First, though, we get the latest on the war in Iran with this report.
Key testimony today from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, appearing before lawmakers for the first time since the war began. What he says about negotiations as President Trump says they are moving along with Iran. I'm Olivia Rubin with those details coming up.
This is your Campfire Conditions Report brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. In the province of New Brunswick, we do have some counties that are closed to campfires. That includes Gloucester, Restigouche, Madawaska, Victoria, and Carleton counties. Then we have some hours of restrictions, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. for Northumberland, York, and Charlotte counties. The remainder of New Brunswick open to campfires. In the province of Nova Scotia, Halifax, the South Shore, and the Annapolis Valley, campfires are restricted to the hours of 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. For the remainder of Nova Scotia, campfires are permitted between 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. And for Prince Edward Island, campfires are currently permitted, with domestic brush burning allowed between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. For your Campfire Conditions Report, I'm Kalen Mitchell.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Iran has agreed to discuss its nuclear program as part of the negotiations to end the war. The secretary was today claiming the war had been a military victory for the U.S. ABC's Olivia Rubin has the latest.
Today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio appearing before lawmakers defending the administration's war in Iran.
They were going to build for themselves so many missiles, so many drones, so many conventional weapons, including a navy, that at that point, there's nothing you could do about it.
The negotiations with Iran to end the war becoming increasingly fraught, with no deal after more than a month of talks.
Complicating that process, unfortunately, is their internal regime is somewhat fractured in the sense of it takes days to get responses from their system.
But Rubio today claiming Iran is ready to negotiate aspects of its nuclear program, where before they were refusing to even mention it.
They have to commit to very specific negotiations on the disposition of the highly enriched uranium that still is buried deep in a mountain somewhere.
Still, Democrats pressing Rubio for answers.
Why does the Strait of Hormuz remain closed? Why is gas up $1.50? Why did 13 American service members lose their lives in this war?
And in a post on social media, Trump saying the administration has been talking with Iran today, but said where those talks lead, quote, one never knows. The president saying he told Iran it's time to make a deal. But a key sticking point emerging, fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Iran reportedly threatening to cut off talks because of it. A senior Hezbollah leader today saying they won't agree to a partial ceasefire and will respond to bombings in southern Lebanon. Israeli Minister of Defense today saying they will maintain the right to hit Beirut if they feel threatened. And Secretary Rubio also saying today that while they haven't actually seen Iran's new supreme leader, they do have indications he's becoming more involved in the negotiations. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
We're going to step aside now. When we come back, warmer temperatures for parts of the region, plus Kalen has the latest on those thunderstorms that are passing through parts of the Maritimes next. There's another look at the city of Halifax. This is from Bayers Lake, and that is exactly, Kalen Mitchell, what you were talking about earlier. Looking at the radar now, we can see it. A live shot. This is that low heavy black cloud, which are
cumulonimbus clouds,
bringing in the potential thunderstorms. Yeah,
ominous sky there that's moving through. It's going to be moving through very quickly, but I did want to bring you an update on those thunderstorms that are basically coming across the area from Upper Tantallon, approaching Halifax, and extending a little bit further towards the east as well, up towards Clam Harbour. So here's a look at that line on radar. Good news is that stronger looking thunderstorm in the vicinity of Upper Tantallon does look like it's weakened a fair bit. That's been the story with these thunderstorms, Todd. They haven't been particularly long-lived. They popped up in a very short period of time, but they're also dissipating, moving out in a short period of time as well.
Anybody who might have flights tonight out of Halifax?
Probably not going to see much in the way of disruptions from these, I wouldn't imagine. They are bringing in some lightning and the risk of some downpours. There might have been a little bit of hail with them. Here's an outlook into what's expected to happen over the next couple of hours, and that line basically heads towards and then off the Atlantic coastline. As we continue through this evening, any other showers present in the Maritimes are also expected to come to an end. We are not alone here in the Maritimes dealing with some thunderstorms today. As the heat is beginning to break down in through parts of Manitoba, that is often a situation where some very strong thunderstorms can develop, where that heat breaks down in the prairies. That's happening right now in Manitoba. Some severe thunderstorm warnings and even a tornado warning. We can take a look at that thunderstorm that produced the tornado warning. It's this one moving just past into the northeast of St. Rose du Lac, and you can see it moving towards the northeast about 30 kilometers an hour. So if it does hold together, it could come within the vicinity of Fairford within the next hour or two. So some severe weather ongoing in Manitoba as that heat begins to break. Looking off towards the east, we can see some very warm temperatures. Southern Ontario moving up into southern areas of Quebec. We are going to start to get into some of that warmth here in the Maritimes over the next couple of days as that ridge of very warm air breaks down and extends further towards the east. Even St. John's will see temperatures come up. They're sitting at 5 right now. Here's a look at our timeline for cloud cover and precipitation. And once again, to recap, those showers, those thunderstorms coming to an end as we make our way through this evening. Overnight, a few clouds, some fog patches developing, fog dissipating as we move from Wednesday morning into Wednesday afternoon. The afternoon hours, mostly sunny to a mix of sun and cloud as an area of high pressure begins to make its way in from the west. For the winds for tomorrow, they're going to take a little bit of a southerly turn in the afternoon. They'll be sustained 10 to 20 kilometers per hour, might be a few gusts between 20 and 40, where that south wind is a little bit more onshore around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. Those direct coastal communities may be held a little bit cooler by that wind coming in off the ocean waters. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight will be falling mostly into the range around 3 to 6 degrees. So 7 at Lunenburg, a little bit chillier at Edmundston in the northwest, New Brunswick there down to around 2. But highs in the north of New Brunswick for tomorrow, mostly 24 to 26 on the coastline between around 18 and 22 degrees. Fredericton tomorrow with a high near 25, 18 for St. John, 21 degrees for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow. Temperatures take a little bit of a baby step up, 14 to 17 degrees. They will be warmer, maybe some mid-20s coming up on Thursday. For eastern areas of Nova Scotia, high temperatures in Cape Breton, still around the low to mid-teens, near 17 degrees for the North Shore, and on the eastern shore of Nova Scotia, those coastal areas mostly between 11 and 16. 18 for Halifax for tomorrow, 20 for Truro, 19 for Amherst, 17 at Parsboro in the Annapolis Valley, high temperatures near 20 degrees. And for communities on the south shore of Nova Scotia, coastal areas 16 to 18 because of that south wind, but you get away from that coastal breeze and those high temperatures should come up into the low 20s. Taking a look at the extended forecast, there's the heat in New Brunswick coming up on Thursday, highs in the high 20s, low 30s, except more moderate on parts of the coast. Mid-20s in the forecast for Friday, the mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures a little step down on the weekend with a chance of showers, low pressure system moving through, but then temperatures begin to warm right back up through the first part of next week. In the outlook for Nova Scotia, we have some sunshine coming up on Thursday, warmer temperatures, still warm on Friday with a mix of sun and cloud. Cools on the weekend with some showers moving through, and then after that a mix of sun and cloud through the start of next week, and temperatures, high temperatures climbing back up into the 20s. And for Prince Edward Island in the outlook, coming up on Thursday, it's sunny, high temperatures will be around the mid-20s, more moderate on parts of the coast. A mix of sun and cloud on Friday, temperatures cool off a couple of degrees and then cool a few degrees more on the weekend with some rounds of showers moving through before temperatures warm back up Monday and Tuesday of next week. Todd.
All right, let's not get into a cycle where it only rains on the weekend, Kalen.
Well, I'll see what I can do about that.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you at the end of the show. Next, we'll talk about literacy rates as New Brunswick aims to up scores in its schools. Stay with us.
Okay, so we're back at it, the Virgin Radio Vault tomorrow. You chance to win some amazing prizes from Ken.
Clues start with us at 6:10.
And around 7:30, get a shot at $100 in gas. Good luck.
Welcome back. New Brunswick's Auditor General's report found several schools in the province are consistently failing to hit literacy targets. A newly released education plan by the province has identified literacy as an area that needs improvement. To discuss the issue, we're joined by Laura Lee Burgess, Centre Director for Oxford Learning. She is in Halifax today. It's nice to see you.
You too, Todd. Thanks for having me.
I mentioned New Brunswick because they're sort of making the news today, but this is probably an issue for all three maritime provinces. You see a lot of kids through your door. Are you surprised to hear that so many students in the region aren't hitting those targets?
I'm not, to be honest. I think it's probably an issue that is fairly consistent right across Canada. So not a surprise.
Yeah. Tests are given what? Early grades, middle school. Some places they do high school, but by high school, is it too late to turn things around?
I wouldn't say it's too late, but the earlier that we can intervene as far as reading interventions go, the better the result. So, you know, it's never too late for anyone to learn to read, to improve their literacy skills, but earlier is definitely better.
Are students getting moved along in the school system and coming out the other end without the proficiency of reading and writing that they need?
I think a lot has changed over the years, and I think we're seeing a number of different things happening right now. I think that there are some significant gaps that occurred during COVID, and I know we keep referring back to that, but that's a huge factor in a lot of these literacy rates that we're seeing today. But I think it also has a lot to do with how kids are consuming reading and text these days, which has changed significantly from previous generations.
Yeah. These tools, social media, the internet, they were going to make us all brighter. They were going to get us reading more efficient. It seems to be producing opposite outcomes.
You know, I think it could be argued that kids are reading more, but I think the issue is what they're reading. You know, when you're reading social media or sending a text message, it's short text. It's, you know, you're looking at things like a comment or, you know, a quick caption, and they're not really reading in depth, you know, text, long text, paragraphs, stories.
Yeah. Without grammar, oftentimes.
Oftentimes that's true. So, you know, they're not seeing those examples of really good literature anymore, or not to the extent that they should be in order to improve those reading scores.
What's the risk for society at large if we have a cohort of people who really can't read or write to the levels that they need to get by, to get jobs, to be self-sufficient?
Well, I think the issue is, you know, lots of people can read the words on a page, but it goes far beyond that. It's about, can they comprehend? Can they analyze the information that they've read? You know, can they think critically about what they've read? And then can they communicate clearly? Those are the biggest concerns that we're going to have, is that if literacy rates don't improve across the board, that's going to be an ongoing issue that we see for decades.
So what are you seeing at your office when, I guess, typically what parents are bringing in their young ones? They've gotten to a point where they feel they need something more. What type of scenarios are you seeing?
Really, we're seeing all ages, all grades. The reading issues that we're seeing have definitely increased. You know, many years ago, I would have said it was the younger kids who are struggling. Now we're seeing it right across the board through all grades, even through high school. That's pretty normal these days. You know, the biggest concern for a lot of parents is that their kids don't have the stamina to read. They don't have the attention span to read. You know, they're never picking up a book, or it's not something that's of interest. So those are things that are concerns that tend to be the reasons that parents reach out in the first place. And then, which kind of goes hand in hand, would be the writing. You know, if you don't if you're not experiencing good examples of well-written text, it then becomes very difficult to communicate effectively, and writing becomes very difficult. So it's not just one subject that writing literacy impacts. It's our thinking, it's our processing, it's everything that we do from the time we're in school and beyond.
So the New Brunswick government, in this case, wants to improve their literacy skills, and they're bringing in a plan. Can an entire school system, can an entire province turn it around in a hurry?
Not in a hurry, I don't think, but I think their plan is over a number of years. I think they're really focusing on building those foundational skills early. The literacy skills, math skills as well kind of go in there. You know, it's not something that happens overnight. Learning to read is a very structured approach. So it is going to take time, but I think it's definitely necessary. I think, you know, there's a lot of school boards that need to be really looking at how we're teaching reading and making sure that we are offering those interventions as early as possible.
Yeah. It's an important subject. Laura Lee Burgess at Oxford Learning. Thank you so much for your time and your insight on this. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with more of your newscast next. In our look at medical headlines, an oral drug designed to prevent COVID-19 gets the green light south of the border. That's one of the stories from CTV's Amanda Debison tonight in the Lifeline.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the first oral antiviral designed to help prevent COVID-19 after exposure to an infected person. Zocova is a 5-day pill regimen approved for people 12 and older. The drug maker says it works by blocking viral replication before symptoms develop. During trials, the drug reduced the risk of developing symptomatic COVID by 67% compared to a placebo. Common side effects include headache, diarrhea, and cough. Google wants to fight mosquitoes with more mosquitoes. The company's debug program is seeking approval in the U.S. to release up to 32 million non-biting male mosquitoes in Florida and California. The insects carry a naturally occurring bacterium that prevents them from producing offspring with wild female mosquitoes. Because only males are released, they don't bite or spread disease. That means the population of disease-carrying mosquitoes could shrink over time. The American Environmental Protection Agency is reviewing the permit request. Finally, therapy donkeys are helping patients with mental health conditions recover in a psychiatric hospital unit outside Paris. Patients attend the sessions free of charge as part of their treatment, which is funded by France's public health system. Patients are paired with a donkey, caring for and walking them. Over time, they become familiar with each other's personalities. Health workers say the sessions are designed as therapeutic interventions for people living with anxiety, depression, autism, schizophrenia, or other conditions. Staff say they can help improve emotional regulation, communication, social interaction, and self-esteem. Some of the donkeys were adopted through shelters after experiencing neglect or mistreatment. The program has also expanded to include guinea pigs, chickens, doves, goats, turtles, and rabbits. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
We're on the scene with the return of a classic game show that's finding new fans in 2026. Here's a review of Password.
We're about to play Password!
But watching the game,
Style, Swagger,
Rock,
Punk,
and playing the game are very different.
You think it's easy when you watch at home, but when you're playing the game and the lights are on and the contestants are here, and we're trying to win real contestants real money.
Yeah,
they're like
$25,000 on the line.
You get so nervous, you start freaking out, and you say the silliest words you say. You go, why would I say that? But that's what keeps it fun.
Jimmy Fallon and a bevy of stars
Trumpet
could have even more at stake for contestants.
Announcer. They will change their life if they win all of this money. I mean, what $25,000 does to someone's life? It's just awesome. I mean,
if they can master
Pineapple?
The show's simple, fun wordplay.
Meatballs. Spaghetti. Yeah!
I mean, what do you prefer? Do you prefer giving the clues or getting the clues?
I prefer giving, I think.
Yeah, right?
Because I think I'm like into it. I'm like, oh, but sometimes I'm in my head and they're not in my head at all.
But they should be into host Keke Palmer's style.
I cannot let the folks down. When it comes to the glasses and the looks, we got to give you camp and flamboyance all day.
And big money.
Marcel.
Snail?
For just the right clue. Mark Barker, NBC Entertainment.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter. Move 100's $10,000 Move It or Lose It is back.
Register for your shopping spree starting Monday at 6 a.m.
On the markets, the Dow closed this trading day up 228 points. We have an update on home sales in the key Canadian market of Vancouver. So let's get those details from B&M Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez.
Home sales in Metro Vancouver down almost 4% in May compared to May of 2025. The biggest weight on the sector, apartment sales. They were down about 7%. The benchmark price of a home is also down year over year by more than 6%. For May, it was just over $1,100,000. The benchmark price for an apartment specifically in Metro Vancouver was just under $700,000. The International Energy Agency says global oil inventories could hit critically low levels ahead of the peak summer driving season. That could lead to a second release of emergency stock. But the official adds that won't solve the problem, with traffic through the Strait of Hormuz still hampered by the Iran-U.S. conflict. Victoria's Secret stock up a whopping 47% today after the lingerie company reported earnings. Its net sales for the quarter were $1.6 billion U.S. Victoria's Secret trying to turn things around after several years of slower sales. It traded today under its new ticker, VSXY. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar up a fraction to 72.27. West Texas Intermediate up to 93.53. Western Canadian Select is down to 71.43. And the TSX popped up over 400 points for a new record close today of 35,169. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
I believe the saying is, I've heard you say, when it roars, stay indoors.
That's right, exactly. When thunder roars, head indoors. And I am practicing what I preach, Todd. Do have a thunderstorm moving through right now, so I'm inside here in the Weather Center for our wake-up conditions. There's that line of thunderstorms. Remember, these are moving through very, very quickly, so they're going to be headed towards and then off the Atlantic coastline within the next hour and a bit. Our viewer picture for tonight, though, features the start of some of this weather earlier this morning. That's an ominous sky there. This was sent in by Cora Joshua from the Moncton area in New Brunswick. That's where some of the unsettled weather conditions sort of began today, with some showers, some downpours, and the odd thunderstorm. It's all along this trough of low pressure that's continuing to make its way out of the region. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritimes. We do start off maybe with a little bit of patchy fog around first thing in the morning. Otherwise, a mix of sun and cloud. Temperature still cool. They'll be mostly around the mid-single digits, and then moving from the morning into the afternoon, we've got some warmer conditions for the province of New Brunswick. Should be some highs there in the low to mid-20s. Temperatures starting to warm up for Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, just not quite as warm as New Brunswick yet. Most of the high temperatures for those two provinces tomorrow will be around the mid to high teens. But then, Todd, temperatures continue to climb region-wide for Thursday.
Well, it looks pleasant. Thank you very much, Kaylin. As we leave you tonight, we're going to go with another old saying, aging like fine wine. It's being put to the test. A collection of wine from the late 19th century has been restored by a prestigious French winery and is now on public display. For years, the wine was hidden away under a chapel floor in the Bee Cove Castle in Czechia. Most of the 133 bottles date from the 1890s. They were hidden at the end of the Second World War by the then owners of the castle and weren't discovered until 1985. The winery cellar master says the hidden cache provided perfect conditions for keeping the wine in very good condition. All right. That is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco joins us at 11:30 with the late night update. Kaylin will be on that as well. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca and the CTV News app has updates anytime. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.